So then, if you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality, not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
Hello to you all from the Netherlands. You're watching RHTVLive. And of course, we are going to talk about politics and geopolitics and stuff like that. Now, we're not going to talk about the Olympic Games and that weird opening ceremony. We're going to talk about history, of course. But first, we're going to show you guys where we are streaming from. Streaming from the south of the Netherlands, Maastricht. Here we have Maastricht, known for the Maas, and it's in the south of the Netherlands. So we're going to take a look at history, right? And what happened in history and what happened in recent history, right? Remember Jim Garrison? Do you guys remember him? Yeah, we have footage of the New Orleans district attorney making a claim that Clay Shaw was part of the CIA and part of the assassination of JFK, right? So let's take a look at that. You have New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison, 1967. Assassination happened in 63, November 22nd in Dallas, Texas.
Amateur staff. His investigation is largely financed by private businessmen and seems puny compared to the vast Warren Commission probe he's trying to overthrow. Yet he obtained an indictment against his first suspect, Clay Shaw. The key witness was Perry Russo, a young insurance salesman who says he overheard Shaw, Oswald, and Ferry plotting the assassination in New Orleans 2 months before it took place. He was hypnotized to help him remember. A supporting witness is a Negro convict and dope addict. The Shaw case is only part of Garrison's conspiracy theory, which is, briefly, that a well-financed right-wing group staged what amounted to a coup d'etat by killing Kennedy, and the U.S. administration hushed it up. It begins with the assumption that Lee Oswald knew Jack Ruby, the man who was to kill him.
Let me first make a reference to Oswald's address book, which is in volume 16, XVI, and it's Commission Exhibit 18. Now, if you turn to page 40 in this volume, page 40 being page 40 of XVI, you will see the number written in Oswald's handwriting, PE81951. PE81951. If you go to XXV 25, the Jack Ruby's phone calls, you will find that on June 10th, 1963, Jack Ruby called PE81951. That's the same phone number that Lee Oswald has in his address book, as printed in volume 16 of the exhibits. Perhaps the more significant example to us is the fact that Ruby and Oswald have been seen together, but I cannot go into that at this time because we get into an area of evidence which I'm not free to comment on. But
You have witnesses, however, who have said they've seen Ruby and Oswald together.
Oh, yes.
In Dallas or here?
In more than one city, if you don't mind not putting it that way. Now,
So you heard the media say it's a conspiracy theory that Clay Shaw was involved in the CIA, right? Conspiracy theory. You keep that in mind.
Another connection to come from another direction is the fact that Jack Ruby had a business acquaintance named Bertha Cheek, and there were several real estate transactions in which Jack Ruby and Bertha Cheek worked together, and they know each other in a business way, and that's been established without any question, because you can even find that in the Warren report. Now, Bertha Cheek has a sister named Earlene Roberts. Earlene Roberts was the landlady where Lee Oswald was living when he was killed at 1026 North Beckley. So you have there the case of Bertha Cheek being a business associate of Jack Ruby. Bertha's sister is Earlene Roberts. Lee Oswald is staying at Earlene Roberts' house when he's arrested. So again, there's another correlation.
Isn't this just a coincidence, however, rather than something more solid like somebody who'll swear they've been seen together?
Any one of these, actually, this is what you call circumstantial evidence.
Coincidence or not, right? There is a connection. Now, this was in history, and why are we showing this? There was a recent assassination on the life of Donald Trump, right? Now, we know the shooter, we're not going to name the name, but we know the shooter, but we still do not know the motive. What was the motive? Jim Garrison was on a good lead because he basically said that Clay Shaw, the one he arrested temporarily, that he was a CIA asset, right? And the media is like, it's all a coincidence. No, it's not. You think it's a coincidence that, Robert Mueller did not investigate what happened in Florida prior to 9/11, right? No. They know what's going on.
And your question is certainly a good question to ask, but the answer is that circumstantial evidence is actually, to man who's practiced law, circumstantial evidence is actually more binding and harder to get away from than witness evidence, because sometimes the eyes can be mistaken. You say, is this coincidence? Any one of these factors of correlation could be coincidence, but the steady accumulation of them is not. To sum it up, it is impossible that they did not know each other. How wide is a conspiracy? It is finite in the sense that it has limits. It is not such a huge thing that it is unsolvable. On the other hand,
you are a hero, Jim Garrison. We will always remember you, right? Because you said Clay Shaw was a CIA asset, and you were right. You were right. So let's take a look at Clay Shaw, right? And let's see what Wikipedia says about Clay Shaw. There you go. Clay Laverne Shaw was an American businessman, military officer, and part-time contract of the Domestic Contact Service of the CIA. He was a CIA asset, right? So there's a larger conspiracy going on with JFK. Now, we don't know the motives of the shooter of Trump, but we do know how the events played out, right? So we have independent investigators looking at what happened at the Trump rally, and they actually made an animation of the shooting. So we're going to take a look at that. Luckily, we have internet, and that is what they want, to be taken away from, right? The interconnections coming from the Netherlands to the USA to all over the world, right? Now, I don't care who watches. I want the truth. That's what I want. So let's take a look at our friends at the Liberal Hive Mind, and let's see what kind of animation there is.
Wow, just wow. You know, it's one thing when you see the video footage, with everything going on, all the people panicking, all the noise, all the movement, and of course the movement or lack of movement of the cameras. You know, it's one thing to analyze all the video footage, and it's another to put the day's event in absolute detail in an animated 3D render, simulating the bullet trajectory and everything else that happened. There's a 3D render that everybody's talking about. I want to take a look at it. Let's have a conversation. Of course, you know, we got a lot to talk about. We got some stuff to get into. So let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's first start off with the clip. Here's an animated grayscale 3D render showing us all the details about what happened on that day. Take a look.
This is a 3D illustration of how many bullets were fired and their trajectory that struck 3 people at the Trump rally on July 13th, 2024. This is the area we're going to focus in on. Here you can see the 3 victims that were injured by gunfire and where they were standing in the bleachers. We're going to turn around and demonstrate exactly where these bullets came from. This model represents Thomas Crooks. His position can be seen here in this image, which illustrates exactly where he was. Turning around, we can see the path of all the bullets that were fired from this location. I placed a 10-foot red disc downrange to represent what an average shooter could hit easily. Now let's take a look at this first shot fired. Coming from our key location, bullet 1 grazes President Trump's ear. This is the same bullet that hits a spectator in the stands. We know this through video evidence. As President Trump is talking, the first shot rings out just after he says, "Take a look at what happened."
Something that said, "Take a look at what happened."
We can see the vapor trail of a bullet strike, which is the same bullet that struck President Trump's ear a split second earlier, and this video is this location here. Back at the podium, President Trump is shot and grabs his ear, falling to the ground as more shots rang out. In total, there were 7 or 8 shots, so let's rewind and watch this at regular speed.
Take a look at what happened.
With all that gunfire, it's easy to understand how these spectators were injured, even though they were not the target, including the sole spectator who lost his life that day. As we circle around, we can see how all the paths of the bullets were hitting in the location of this forklift machine, causing one of the hydraulic hoses to burst.
Holy frickin' moly. You know, I'm not usually one to say this kind of thing, but in this case, I'm sure we're all thinking the exact same thing. It feels like divine intervention. How close was that? The shooter...
We need more investigations like this, right, to solve the hard-pressing issues, such as 9/11. Reopen 9/11. 3,000 people have died, roughly. And we will never, ever forget what happened on September 11th. Never. I'm not American, but, it had impact on the world stage, such as the assassination of JFK and the attempted assassination on Donald Trump, right? Now, we know from Tucker Carlson that there is a timeline to follow, prior to the assassination, and Jack Posobiec did his own investigation and found out that the Secret Service was spread everywhere. They were at the RNC. Jill Biden was also having dinner, and they were spread out. And the police in Butler were not assisted by the Secret Service. So let's take a listen to this here.
I've got here Senator Johnson's office, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, has been kind enough to send us a preliminary copy. We are told
and
that...
can I say one thing? I think whatever you think of, I like Ron.
We're going to rewind. We had a technical malfunction there. So
I've got here Senator Johnson's office, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, has been kind enough to send us a preliminary copy of their reporting into the situation. Very fresh, fog of war, caveat, right. On all this stuff.
Yes.
Because this is what's coming from them. We are told
and
that...
can I say one thing? I think whatever you think of, I like Ron Johnson, but even if I didn't, he clearly has a willingness to pull threads in a way most senators are not. And he's obviously got some decent investigators on his staff, given what he did with COVID. So
I think he's someone who wants the truth of things.
It does feel that way to me.
And that he with a burning desire. By the way, there are 2 senators of Pennsylvania. I don't see them.
No, they're not
doing any of this.
But Johnson has people on his, I don't know who they are, but he came up with stuff during COVID that nobody else got. So
right.
I think that...
I also want to know the truth, right? Who's running the show? Well, maybe Bill Hicks was right.
We should consider what you're about to say in light of that.
All right, and these are predominantly interviews that were conducted through the local police, and that just right off the start, should tell you something, because if Johnson's talking to local police, wait a minute, this is the United States Senator. Shouldn't he have direct access to the Secret Service? Shouldn't he have direct access to the ATF, to the FBI, all of these things? And so as his office has been going through the investigation, they suddenly said, well, yeah, we talked to one guy from the ATF who was sort of there, but then he went dark on us. And we talked to a few people at the Secret Service, and they pushed us to the spokesman, like you're some reporter. We talked to a few people at FBI, but nothing. And then so local police is saying, whoa, wait a minute, we'll tell you whatever you want to know. So why is it that local police are being more forthcoming than our actual government?
Well, this is why they defunded the police in the first place. It's not because they're against police. They seek a police state. They're against anybody with guns they can't control. That's why they're trying to take your AR. I mean, that's the way to understand it.
The goal of defund the police is a national police force,
of course.
Eventually.
Yeah, guys with guns they can control.
And Sharpton has come out and said this.
Obviously. It's so obviously true. So anyway, I keep interrupting you.
So, number one top line, Secret Service did not attend a security briefing that morning.
The morning of the event.
The morning of the event. So, and we can drop back and just explain the whole thing. Donald Trump is having a political rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is Western Pennsylvania, about 40 miles north or so of the city of Pittsburgh. On the same day, same evening, Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, is holding a dinner event in Pittsburgh. The context of all this is that the RNC is taking place 2 days in advance of it. And so the RNC is taking place. Jill Biden's got the event. Donald Trump is at the event, both in the same Secret Service field office area. Now, there's also a lot of Secret Service down in Milwaukee, where you and I were, at the RNC. So Secret Service is totally stretched at this point. It's not like a normal situation. The security posture, because of this, because of the lack of resources, is much lower. The normal people who would be around President Trump aren't there. His A team, as they're called, aren't necessarily there as much. People are spread to all these different locations. This is the context. We also know that there was a strong theory that President Trump would bring his vice presidential pick to that rally, and certainly this was in discussion, held right on the border of where? Ohio. President Trump that morning, we now know, had a meeting with Senator J.D. Vance, who went on to become the nominee, although that pick was not made until Monday. So J.D. Vance doesn't end up.
Well, I happen to know that was the plan, or one of several plans that was under discussion. That's a fact.
Yes.
And I heard it from a bunch of different people. I heard it from the campaign. So this was known. Right.
I'm hearing the exact same thing, that, and partially the forcing function for that is because the vice presidential nominee must be named on the first day of the convention. Right. And so the idea is, well, why not just bring him to a rally and do it there and have it be, and I haven't quite have you heard why it was that they decided not to bring him?
Yeah, I have. And I think it was just a political question. Where are we going to get more bang for this announcement?
Okay.
But I do know that as of, a few days before, that was actively being discussed. It's a long way of saying what you just said, which is that people watching this had every reason to believe that Trump and his VP pick would be there.
So you see, and of course, Rubio had just been at an event in Trump Doral, I think a few days before, and he was someone who was also very heavily lobbied. We can talk about that later, but heavily lobbied as vice president from a number of people around that same time period. But he had been at a rally in Doral, and yet Trump did not bring him on stage. So a lot of people thought that was sort of the death knell for that potential candidacy. So Trump is holding this rally, and about 10 minutes into the start of the rally.
Wait, first though, the Secret Service didn't even show up at the morning briefing the day of the rally?
Yeah. Right here. Secret Service did not attend a security briefing provided to local special weapons and tactics SWAT and sniper teams the morning of July 13th. So
So that's a big red flag, right? Remember the drills prior to 9/11? What was it? Operation whatever. Yeah, they had a lot of operations that evening or that morning, and this is how he confused people, right? So
when you're holding an event like this, going back to security posture, typically you're going to need to staff up. So you're going to need extra bodies, you're going to need augments, you're going to need more CS, counter sniper teams, you're going to need all of these things, because a huge event, outdoor event since November 1963 has always been and will always be the most potentially fatal event that a politician can hold, of course. And so they know that for one of these outdoor events, the first thing you have to worry about is all the tall buildings, all the tall implements. This is why they're held in fields, by the way, for the most part, rather than like inner cities, because cities you would have more vantage points. You've got windows, you've got all sorts of stuff. Dealey Plaza, we can all do the math on this. And so they bring in augments from state police. They bring in augments from the local Butler County Sheriff. They bring augments from the Butler Township Police, and to say, okay, you're going to be working with us. No, every single presidential event is controlled by the Secret Service. And this woman, Kimberly Cheadle, speaking of female leadership, it tells us that, well, these areas were assigned to the local police, and that's just not true. They may have been in areas that were considered outside the perimeter, but the Secret Service has command of every single hierarchy for a presidential visit, period, full stop. So anyone who's brought into this is working through their operational plan. So the CONOP is done, concept of operations would be done by the Secret Service and then disseminated to these teams. However, we're told that at the basic sync meeting that you would have been having that morning, Secret Service wasn't even there. So the local police say, okay, morning of, let's go. It's the like the coach meeting the team before
the
the game.
Secret Service is responsible for protecting Trump.
Yes,
but they couldn't even go to the meeting that morning. Let me ask you a question.
And this is the meeting
that's bizarre,
where
right?
you're going.
Well, it's because the Secret Service is spread out, right? This is how you plan an event. During 9/11, you had this Able Danger. You guys remember that? Able Danger. That was to track terrorists within the United States. This was prior to 9/11, right? I'm not making this up. So this is how you plan it out. Spread the Secret Service everywhere. And let's not go to Butler. No one heard of Butler, even though it's there. It's on the map. No disrespect to them, but it's just a small rural town, and it's not really, not really known. So, yeah, we have that going on. And Trump is going back to Butler. We know this from his social accounts, right? So we have a timeline, but we still have no motive. And Tucker Carlson asks about the motive.
Going through what frequency are we on, guys? Hey, I'm Jack, here's Tucker. We're going to be out there. Okay, you got the building. We're going to be in here. So you would be able to communicate. You'd go through a communications plan. You'd go through the basic workflow of the day. You'd go through your pattern of life.
Yeah.
You would mention if you, I don't know, saw someone flying a drone around or something like that. That type of information could be disseminated. Or if there were any local groups that they had an eye on, you might put out a 6-pack or something like that. Hey, be advised, these are some of the things that we're tracking. These are some of the people that we're looking at. If you had something like that, this is the meeting where you would do that. Secret Service doesn't go.
Crazy. Okay. So then what happens?
So
now you may wonder, what's your concern about this, right? You're a Dutch guy. You can't even vote. But what can happen there can happen here.
Local law enforcement was siloed, no direct radio contact because they didn't go to the meeting. They had no way of contacting directly to the Secret Service snipers who were inside. So you've got these police teams outside.
Even during the event, they had no way to contact them?
They had to contact them through an intermediary. So you'd set up a tactical operations center or a communication, I think it was called the Butler Communication Center in this case, or the TOC. So you'd go through the TOC, and then the TOC has a liaison, and the liaison goes to the Secret Service, and then the Secret Service has to go through their liaison back to the TOC, and then the TOC goes back to the police, as opposed to just being on the same frequency and saying, hey, there's a guy crawling on the building.
So who was this guy, and how did he get there? What do we know about him?
This individual, and I want to skip ahead a little bit in the report because there's a lot in this report. Even, by the way, let me say this real quick. Section 5. Secret Service was initially not going to send snipers to the rally, according to local law enforcement.
Social media are great. They're important. They're the main way we communicate with each other. They're where politics happen in this country. But one of the problems with social media is that the rules change. The people in charge don't want you to say something. They don't tell you that. And the next thing you know, you're without a platform.
Well, Tucker, I don't care. You see, I don't want to be famous. You know, I don't want to rule over people. You know, I want to be free. I want the truth to come out, whether it's about Trump, whether it's about, Osama bin Laden. That's a peculiar story, right? You know, him hiding out in Pakistan next to a military base, and stuff like that. It's amazing. You know, why doesn't the truth come out? In my opinion, Osama bin Laden was, on a dialysis machine and did not live that long. So they kind of used his image and made proxies, to scare Americans, by using entrapment and stuff like that. That's my opinion, right? And this is how you gain more power. So, yeah, we know this in history. We know that the French Revolution, we have Robespierre, and he had the cult of the Supreme Being. So let's take a look at this here.
Hello and welcome to HistoryPod. On the 7th of May 1794, French revolutionary Maximilien Robespierre formally announced the creation of the cult of the Supreme Being in a meeting of the National Convention. The cult of the Supreme Being had been devised almost exclusively by Robespierre. Its creation followed a period of dramatic de-Christianization that had seen the French Church stripped of its authority. The Republic had fought hard to remove the influence of the Church from politics, and had even changed the calendar to strip it of all religious connotations. What made the cult of the Supreme Being unique as the state religion was that it recognized that God had created the universe, but that he did not interfere or intervene in its operation. Therefore, it taught that humans were responsible for their own actions and destinies. In the words of Robespierre, the existence of God and the immortality of the human soul were constant reminders of the virtuous way people should live their lives in the Republic, which echoed some of the Enlightenment thought that had driven the early years of the French Revolution. On the 20th of Prairial, that's the 8th of June 1794, Robespierre ordered a national celebration known as the Festival of the Supreme Being. The most significant celebrations were held in Paris, where a huge man-made papier-mâché mountain was built on the Champ de Mars. The Festival of the Supreme Being is seen by many as marking the pinnacle of Robespierre's influence on French political life. Within just 8 weeks, the Thermidorian reaction had removed him from power and executed him.
Yeah, the French know how to party, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. Having a whole mountain of papier-mâché, and it's amazing. But, what happened then is also happening now. You have the Olympic Games. I didn't want to touch on this, but it's something that recently happened, and it's really a clown show. Let's take a look at Liberal Hive Mind. They were talking about the Olympic Games. Wait. He's got a lot of good videos. I can tell you that. I'd like to meet this guy sometime. So we're going to take a look at this video here.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, now here, this is what I call peak leftist hypocrisy. These leftoids are always going on and on about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Hashtag diversity is our strength, right? They're always espousing this virtue of tolerance, everybody is welcome. But of course, what do they really mean by that? What they really mean is acceptance, inclusion, and tolerance only for those who join the cult, only for the people who fall directly in line with our specific ideology. Everybody else, of course, yeah, well, I guess you're not invited to the DEI tolerance party now, are you? Holy frickin' moly. Leftist inclusion is once again on full display, except it's not inclusion at all. No, it's exclusion. The global left once again proves that they are essentially the exact opposite of what they espouse. The woke left has taken over the Olympics at Paris 2024, and it pretty much proves everything we've been saying. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, I'm sure you guys have seen it. I'm not going to be playing any of the clips from the Olympics opening ceremony, very simply because the Olympics organization is going around issuing false copyright strikes on Twitter and YouTube users in their desperate attempt to silence critics. But do I really even need to play the clip, as if you guys haven't already seen it? Obviously, I think at this point you have to be living under a rock in order to not know what's going on. Essentially, the Olympics opening ceremony was a complete woke clown show. Maybe I'll put some pictures on the screen of the absolute worst parts. That way it can add some context to what I'm talking about. But holy frickin' moly, what in the world did I watch? Nothing says national pride, athleticism, competition like a drag queen performance. Unironically, that's exactly what it was. For those of you guys who haven't seen the clip, I urge you go and watch it because I'm not exaggerating, I'm not lying. That's exactly what it was. And of course, what was the reasoning behind it all? Well, we know exactly what it is, and it's kind of related to the intro of the video: diversity, equity, and inclusion. This individual right here on the screen was the director in charge of this interesting Parisian performance, an individual by the name of Thomas Jolly, and there's a video currently circulating where he explains his inspiration for the Olympics opening ceremony, and yup, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a leftist bot. We'll go through frame by frame. Like I said, I'm not playing any videos here, so we'll go through frame by frame and read the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. He says, "How do you write a show in which everybody, at one point, feels represented and part of this bigger thing, this bigger us? For an artist, it's a beautiful responsibility to have. It's ambitious but also complex because one has to broaden one's own imagery." Just empty, vapid words. One's own outlook and include everyone. Understand everyone so that no one feels left behind. Alright, sure, so represent everyone. Everyone wants to feel welcomed and represented. That was the ambition behind this opening ceremony. Except, those are just buzzwords. That's just what these leftist activists say on the surface, but then of course their actions depict a completely different set of ideology or ideas. They wanted everybody to feel accepted. I guess except for Christians, right? You probably saw this picture all over the internet. At one point, as this Thomas Jolly person is talking about the imagery that he was conveying, they depicted an image of the Last Supper, a classic painting by Leonardo da Vinci that depicts Jesus and his apostles in Jerusalem enjoying the Last Supper before his crucifixion. It's a beautiful classic Christian rendition, and what did Mr. Thomas...
So basically, France is kicking out the church, right? And, very sad to see, because there are religious people in France. There are Christians, right? I don't see them enacting a play of Muslims, right? This is profanity of the Christian faith. I don't even believe in God. I believe that people, believe in what they believe. That's what I believe. And let them believe that, If someone says the earth is flat, okay, whatever. That's your train of thought, not mine. I think differently, but I'm not going to argue with you, I'm not going to argue with your warped vision of reality, right? So it's a very complex situation that we have here in Europe, and as I've said, we are interconnected. So we have Americans looking at Europe, and you have Europeans looking at America, right? And let's hope we can keep it that way. We're connecting with each other on many continents, and we're trying to keep up this, non-political, not even an organization, but thought, right? We need to let go of Democrat, let go of Republican, let go of the whole political system and reform it, right? Reform what you have and make it something else, right? Build a consensus on what's best for your country. Now, I know it's hard because everyone is divided and it's an odd world out there. There are things happening, So, mystical things. I was watching a YouTube channel called Slapped Ham. I know that some people would say that's all fake, but who knows? Who knows? So let's take a look at Slapped Ham, and I like the ghost videos. Things that cannot really be explained. So let's take a look at this here.
Is she trying to convey a message, or perhaps seeking closure? While the mystery...
Well, we're going to go back. There we go.
In an unsettling series of events circulating on TikTok, user Batom has been posting videos that have left viewers both intrigued and terrified. These clips hint at the possibility of a haunting within their home, raising questions that blend the supernatural with real-life mysteries. It began innocuously enough when Batom returned from a weekend trip to find inexplicable handprints on their bedspread. Assuming it was a prank from their housekeeper, the user dismissed it. But things took a dark turn when they received a harrowing call from the housekeeper's family. The cleaner, it emerged, had been missing for over a week, prompting her family to file a report with the local police. Suddenly, the mysterious handprints appeared in a much more ominous light. As the days progressed, Batom documented increasingly eerie occurrences around their home. One video shows objects moving around the living room.
Sí, no manches. Sí. Sí. Verga.
Then late one night, they noticed this in their backyard.
No mamen, chavos. Amigos, la neta es que nos habían prohibido grabar. Por eso que no habíamos subido nada. Ven, amor.
Several days later, this happened right before going to sleep.
Se va a volver a abrir porque se escuchan ruidos. Literal se acaba de escuchar un ruido. No. No mames.
Ay, no seas mamá.
Amor, no mames.
As the videos garnered attention, speculation swirled among viewers. The prevailing theory is chilling. Could the spirit of the missing housekeeper be attempting to reach out from the other side? Is she trying to convey a message, or perhaps seeking closure? While the mysteries surrounding Batom's experiences deepen, thousands are glued to their screens awaiting the next chapter in this hair-raising saga. As always, I'll put links in the description box down below. The channel is well worth checking out.
So Slapped Ham is well worth checking out, as they say themselves. So, yeah, it's not really politics, but, you know, as I've said before, there are many, many things happening on this planet. And, you know, you have to be open to suggestions on certain issues, such as, is the Warren Commission based on truth? Is the 9/11 Commission based on truth? Right? I want to know truth. That's what I want to know. I'm a taxpaying citizen, and I should know the truth on what's going on. Right? I should know the truth about MH17. You know, a plane crashed in Ukraine, which basically was an escalation of the war in Ukraine, right? And 300 Dutch passengers lost their lives. And I want to know the truth. I want to know what my government knew about the whole situation in the east of Ukraine. Right? Were they paying attention? Because I don't think so. Because we were reporting on the fall of Afghanistan, right? The Taliban took over, and we were looking at the situation on the ground for a while, and you know, we knew before our government knew what was happening in Afghanistan. You see, this is why we follow Al Jazeera and other foreign media. So, and the plane crash in Luhansk, I believe. Luhansk. There. Crashed somewhere south of Luhansk. And, you know, we will always remember, but we're not going to remember the false narratives that government gives us, right? We want to know the truth. We want to know the truth. And we're not politically affiliated with any political, you know, party or whatever. I want to know the truth. I want to know what happened with MH17. I want to know both sides, because Russia also has a explanation of what happened on the event, right? And this is the reason why the Dutch government is involved in the war in Ukraine. You know, and I want it to stop. I want peace. That's what I want. Peace in my time, such as JFK once said. Right? Now, going back to what happened on the assassination attempt, the head of the Secret Security resigned, right? So, or the Secret Service. Basically, it is security. But we're going to take a look at this here.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades.
Kimberly Cheetle was responsible for protecting those at the top of US politics. She admitted that she'd failed, prompting a barrage of criticism on Capitol Hill.
It is my firm belief, Director Cheetle, that you should resign.
Not only should you resign, if you refuse to do so, President Biden needs to fire you.
You cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet.
You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
But in the end, the pressure was too great. Writing to colleagues, she said, "The Secret Service will move forward with our investigatory and protective mission in a steadfast manner. We do not retreat from challenge. However, I do not want my calls for resignation to be a distraction from the great work each and every one of you."
Now the Secret Service should tell the American population on, how this could happen. How could an assassination like this happen? An assassination attempt, right?
You do towards our vital mission. In light of recent events, it is with a heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down as your director.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
The shooting of Donald Trump was the first attempted assassination of a president or former president in 4 decades. His close protection team putting their lives on the line to shield him. The security breach monumental. A 20-year-old able to climb a roof with a rifle just meters from his intended target.
Sky News can, give the reconstruction. We already gave that. But they still have no motive. Right? And I want to know, what was his motive? Were there more people, on his list or whatever? Apparently his car was found with explosives and stuff like that. I want to know the truth. Right? I want to know the truth. And we did see the Olympic fiasco, the opening event. Now maybe someone else can say what really happened, because she was there, and we're going to look it up. So here we have the video. Wait a sec. So and let's shift gears here. I'm talking about the Olympic Games. We have this person here, Katie Hopkins, who was there during the opening ceremony, And let's take a listen to this here.
Date from the pedo-perv Paris Olympic Games. The torch was handed to a man, and an ugly man dressed up as an even uglier woman with too much makeup and comedy tits, as if to say women are no longer required, which is very much the way Macron operates with his wife. The pedo-perv Olympics then moved on to a blasphemous Last Supper made up of drag and trans artists and a blue smurf. Most of them seem to share the hobby of overeating. If it was their Last Supper, it wouldn't be a bad thing. One of the weirdos decided to leave his left gonad hanging out of his sparkly sequin shorts, like that last mouldy tangerine that gets left in the orange netting after Christmas. One wonders what would have happened if this scene had been about a, say, prophet banging a 8-year-old. It must have been a non-binary 8-year-old. Presumably Notre Dame would have been burned down again. All we can say at this point is thank God for Celine Dion, who escaped stiff person syndrome momentarily in order to bring a little bit of dignity to proceedings. Meanwhile, camera cuts back to images of Tom Daley dressed in his Speedos once again with his partner Lance Black, spanking one out to the thoughts of a blue smurf with his cock out. That's it from the pedo-perv Olympic Games Day 1. This is your update from the pedo-perv Paris Olympic Games. The torch was handed to a man.
So there you have it, right? An update from the pedo-perv Olympics. And we hate this. This is the same nonsense as Robespierre came up with, right? The cult of whatever. We just showed it. It's not really called the cult of whatever, but you know, I kind of forgot the name. Anyways, yeah, this is what's happening around the world. You know, and it's a sacrilege. You know, they're basically insulting the Christian faith, and I hate it. You know, it's not my thing, the Olympic Games. It's just a distraction. But I'd rather watch like the European Championships. I like that. You know, the Netherlands almost was European champion. We were kicked out by England during the half final. But, you know, I like to see him get to the finals for once. So let's see what else we got here on the Facebook channel. Let's scroll down. There we have me walking in Maatschappelijk, and of course at home talking about politics. Of course, I like this one here. Look at me, I'm smarter than you. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. My government and media would never lie to me. Right? Yeah, right. We do not believe that. They, them, yeah, how to insult the rainbow people, right? Now with more pronouns. Yay. She, them, he, him, and they, she. So we also have a Starbucks parody here. And let's see what else we got here. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Right? We remember Monty Python. Right? Bring out your dead. And here we have Kamala Harris. Here's one. And Joe Biden, I'm not dead yet. Yep. That's basically what's happening. And let's see, the social media is discovered of the shooter, but still no motive, right? We still do not have a motive. And this is also a very important video. Just takes 15 seconds to listen to. So imagine this, right? Imagine this.
Imagine a population so brainwashed that you could convince them to be terrified of a virus that they've never seen, while spraying them daily in broad daylight in the sky, only for them to deny it's happening to them because no one on TV told them it was. Imagine a population so brainwashed that you could convince them to be terrified of a virus that they've never seen, while spraying them daily in broad daylight in the sky, only for...
Yeah, we have more weapons than just, the weather manipulation that's constantly going on around the world. So let's see what else we got. Here, Kamala Harris should never be commander-in-chief. And we're going to open this here and also take a look at what Tulsi Gabbard has to say about Kamala Harris, right? We know Tulsi Gabbard confronted Harris during the Democratic nomination for president, the DNC convention, not whatever. You know the gist, right? So we're going to take a look at what Tulsi Gabbard has to say about Kamala Harris, right? So here we have Tulsi Gabbard. I believe her resume is that she was in the Iraq War and Afghanistan War, came back to Hawaii to be a representative of Hawaii for the Democrats, and she left because she, saw that the Democratic Party was extreme with their LGBTQ XYZ agenda. So let's take a look at this here.
Is about 1:30 in the morning, wrapping up my trip here to Rome, where I came out here to participate in a dialogue with leaders from different countries about peace, security, and prosperity in the Western Hemisphere and Europe. Obviously, there's been a lot of breaking news given President Biden announced he's not running for re-election. Kamala Harris has now gathered the support not only of President Biden, but the Clintons and leaders in Congress and many others. I fully expect her to be the Democratic nominee. So it's worthy for us to have a discussion of what does a President Kamala Harris look like, a Commander-in-Chief Kamala Harris, and what are some of the things from her record that we as voters should be examining as we go through this next 3 months of this election. So I jotted down a few notes that I think are worthy of our examination and our discussion. First of all, let's be clear about why this decision was made by the Democrat elite. They don't care about Joe Biden. Frankly, they don't care about Kamala Harris. They don't care about any certain individual. All they care really is about power. How do they stay in power? So they've put Joe Biden and his horse out to pasture. They've brought in a semi-new horse in Kamala Harris. This is very predictable. But we should not be mistaken or distracted by this switcheroo that's just taken place because nothing's going to change. The policies are not going to change. The elitist cabal of warmongers that are in control of the Democratic Party, led by the queen of warmongers herself, Hillary Clinton, will remain in charge. This is one of the main reasons why I left the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris will now be the maidservant of this queen of warmongers, continuing to be that figurehead, that front man for those unelected people who are actually calling the shots and pulling the strings, making decisions about our foreign policy and our domestic policy. You have to look at knowing that to be true. What are the consequences of those policies? Where have they gotten us? Well, we're on the brink of war with multiple countries, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, just to name a few, and closer to the brink of nuclear Armageddon than we ever have been before. Why are we here? Well, it's the military-industrial complex that's continuing to profit very, very well from us being in a constant state of war. and the national security state, who have more power and more authorities to try to undermine our fundamental freedoms and our liberty when we are in a state of war. How many times have you heard, the argument, well, we have to place these limitations on your rights and freedoms, your civil liberties, in order to keep our country safe? That's a false choice that we, the people, should not accept. We should demand more from our leaders to uphold our constitutional rights and freedoms enshrined in our founding documents, and also make decisions that ensure our safety, our security, and our freedom. You go back to the 2020 presidential primary.
Well, you see, politics is a very, very dirty game, Miss Gabbard, right? It's a very, very dirty game. We know what's going on. We know that the illusion of terrorism was used during the Bush era, right? We even know that Ahmad Salam was contacted by the FBI, right, to make a fake bomb. And that fake bomb turned out to be real. And, the bombing of the World Trade Center back in 1993, yeah, that happened. So we know the dirty games that they're playing, right? The 2020 elections were stolen. They were stolen, right? We look at politics, we look at history, we look at every aspect of what's going on, right? We know what we're talking about. It was stolen. Joe Biden was in his basement live streaming, and Donald Trump was crisscrossing around America, having all these rallies. Many, many people visited these rallies. And you're telling me that, Joe Biden from his basement got more votes? Am I supposed to believe that? Am I supposed to believe that passports survived, even though a building or three just, collapsed into thin air, basically? Am I supposed to believe that? Passports survived? Yeah, this is how we found out that Al Qaeda was involved, and we know where Al Qaeda came from, right? So, politics is a very, very dirty game. Keep that in mind, right? We're not talking conspiracy theories here. We're talking facts.
I challenged Kamala Harris on the debate stage about her record as she called herself, the person to be the prosecuting president. She was the former attorney general for California. She was former district attorney for San Francisco, and she said she was proud of her record on criminal justice. And so I asked her some very simple and obvious questions, pointing out her abysmal record when she was in a position to actually bring about real reforms to the criminal justice system there in California. You might see this clip playing around. I seem to be seeing it more and more these days.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
She had no answer for her record on how ultimately, when she was in a position to help people, she made decisions that hurt people. As vice president, the first task that she was given by President Biden was to be the border czar, to go and help resolve the illegal immigration crisis at the border. Did she do so? Not at all. As you may recall, it took her a very, very, very long time to even go and visit the border. Now, I don't know about you, but if it were me and I was tasked with securing the border, how long do you think it would take me to get to the border? I would be there the next day, immediately. Go and assess the situation and come up with an actionable, achievable plan to solve that problem. We got none of that from Vice President Kamala Harris. And 3.5 years later, their open border policies, while they stood there and looked at cameras and told all of the American people, the borders are secure.
The border is secure.
The border is secure.
We're working to make sure it's safe and orderly and humane.
Border is secure, and we are working every day to increase its security.
You are working every day to lie to the American public, right? And you're using your media tentacles to do that. I, as a Dutch person, I can see through the veil of hypocrisy and this and that. We know what we're talking about, right? As I've said before, the FBI was involved in making proxies, right, to, give the illusion that there was domestic terrorism in the United States during the Bush administration. And, I'm not lying about it, right? There's an opinion piece in the New York Times on the FBI. We're going to take a look at that. So we need to create a free account. Anyway, terrorist plots hatched by the FBI. New York Times talks about it. Talks about the FBI providing, fake explosives and stuff like that. We also have the Ahmad Salam tapes. So we're going to take a look at that. But first, we're going to look it up. And Ahmad Salam was talking to an FBI agent who supplied him on explosives and stuff like that. So let's see if we can find the video of that. So here we go. The search term is Ahmad Salam WTC bombing recording FBI agent. Here, 9/11 audio recording after dramatic timeline. Yeah, right. CNN, you are lying. Right? We know what's going on. We're still looking for the Ahmad Salam recordings. Maybe we need to use another search term. Here. That's 52 minutes. We're going to probably talk about the recording. I don't know.
Welcome to episode 261 of FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. I'm a retired agent on a mission to show you who the FBI is and what the FBI does through my award-winning books, blog, and podcast case reviews with former colleagues. Today, we get to speak to, once again, retired agent John Antisev, who served in the FBI for 28 years. In part 2 of this 2-part episode, John continues his case review of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and his operation of informant Imad Salim, an FBI confidential source who infiltrated an operational cell of Egyptian Islamic radicals, but was fired by John's FBI superiors while John was out on sick leave recovering from a brain tumor.
Yeah, you see, they make the cells themselves, right? You know, it's that's how they work. That's also you know, how they used the Mujahideen to take control of Afghanistan, right? So it used to be on YouTube, but yeah, we now live in an age of censorship. So we do have it on RHTVLive, but that was years ago. I don't know if that's still searchable. Let's see. Bombing, plotted, dies in prison. Yeah, we know that. So most is scrapped from the history, you know, and we're not supposed to remember this, right? We're not supposed to remember that they use these dirty tricks to persuade people for war and to keep people frightened, right? We know the dirty tricks they play. We know the sacrifices they make. You know, talking about the Bohemian Grove, cremation of care. So we know what's going on. We know, and we're talking about it, right? We're talking about these issues. Let's see if we can find it this way. Nope. Yeah, this is still, you know, circulating on internet. They wanted it to happen, just like JFK, just like Donald Trump. They wanted it to happen. You know, the shooter was involved in the privatized military, you know, group called Blackwater, mercenary group. So let's take a look at this here. Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, this was 11 years ago, where he confronted, what's his face? You know, the English dude. Who cares? So let's take a look at this here.
To find out what exactly happened on 9/11.
That's what I want to know. I want to know what exactly happened on 9/11. Why did they stand down?
We're not.
What would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald?
Wait a minute. Mr. Ventura is telling here that they knew within a few hours, right? Because they actually have that group under control, you know. So they immediately knew. I think the passports were planted evidence and stuff like that. But that's a conspiracy. Oh, that's a conspiracy. You're a conspiracy nut job. I know. But I also know government cannot be trusted.
How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if
That dude is Pierce Morgan, by the way.
they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now.
Actually, the title was Bin Laden Determined to Strike the U.S. Right?
Also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, come off it, Jesse.
No, not come off it. Wait a minute.
No.
Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to people.
Wait a minute. In depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well,
and one
then
thing
how
I do
come?
know is
Let me ask you this.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour. Yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England yes, it's true,
you need to
that
take a
this
break
building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was
one of the most respected news organizations in the world. Remember Jimmy Savile or Seville or whatever his name is, Remember that dude? That just molested kids and, not one or two, but like hundreds of kids. He had access to kids. He even had a kid program on the BBC. And Piers Morgan is saying that the BBC is the most respected news broadcast in the world. Now, I do not have respect for that, even though Jimmy Savile is like crowned by now King Charles. So, it's really amazing. And that also has connections to Epstein, right? We know that Andrew was involved, the brother of Charles was involved in the Epstein, stuff. That's also under the table, right? We don't know what happened to Epstein. I do know that Epstein did not kill himself. Right, that's what I know, and I don't really feel for Epstein, but I do feel for his family in some certain way. That they also need to know the truth. What happened to our brother? I don't care what happened prior. Well, I do care in a certain way, but we look at this objectively, right? We know that Epstein was an FBI informant and stuff like that. So, but Piers Morgan says that there is no evidence of the BBC saying that World Trade Center 7 was standing. And let's take a look at this here. See if we can find it. Here, Jane Stanley reports collapse of World Trade Center 7 20 minutes early.
More on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the...
Now mind this, you could also see some part on screen when she tilts her head a bit. It's directly behind her. You know, this is where the towers have stood, and this is where World Trade Center 7 is, directly behind her.
The World Trade Centers of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see
There we have World Trade Center 7, right? Still standing. And the BBC had said it had fallen. And Jesse Ventura had said at Piers Morgan, there's video evidence of the BBC, you know, saying that World Trade Center 7 had fallen prior to falling. You know, I want to know the truth, right? I want to know what's going on. So what is going on? How can the BBC, you know that World Trade Center 7 would fall even though it's still standing? You know, I want to know this because 9/11 is like a pool, right? When you throw a rock in a pool, you have a ripple effect. Now, the ripple effect of 9/11 was intervention in Afghanistan, the intervention in Iraq, the intervention in Libya, right? The intervention in Syria, which also caused a migrant stream coming towards Europe. You know, that's the ripple effect of 9/11. So I want to know the truth. Donald Trump, if you're watching, or if anybody's watching, right, send this to Donald Trump. I want to know the truth. I may be a Dutch person, but you know, I want to know the truth. Because we're talking about people's lives. You know, many people have died because of the intervention in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Many people are, you know, addicted to opiates and stuff like that because of the intervention, right? The U.S. gave farmers like lots and lots of money to make opium fields and stuff so they can cash in on that, right? I'm not making this up. just giving the frame of reality. And this here is the beginning of the frame of consensus. You need to understand how the media works, right? So they already had the story that World Trade Center 7 would fall. Many other media picked it up also, right? Like MSNBC and other mainstream platforms. So, but this is the beginning of the frame of consensus, right? And the frame of consensus is, a dangerous path to follow, because that is not the truth, right? Were explosives used in the buildings? Was it controlled demolition? Maybe we can put out a poll, right? Was it a controlled demolition? We'll put out a poll after this broadcast. Was 9/11 a controlled demolition? Did they know prior that an attack would happen and stuff like that? I want to know the truth, even though I'm Dutch, right? We're talking about people, people who've lost relatives and still don't know the answer of what happened to their relatives, right? We need to push this forward. There was a movement, the 9/11 Truth Movement, but that died out. People forgot. But I still remember. And, I was talking about ripple effects, right? The war with Russia is also a ripple effect of what happened on 9/11, right? And why, you may ask, how come? Well, on the world stage, you have the United Nations, right? And Russia vetoed an intervention in Libya. They said, do not attack Libya. They also vetoed an attack on Syria. Don't attack Syria. Don't do that. And then you had the Maidan coup. Victoria Nuland was involved with Jeffrey Pyatt, who's now in foreign policy in the Middle East. Well, back then he was Eastern Europe, right? Ukraine. So, yeah, this is what's happening. And very, very sad to see. We demand the truth, right? We demand the truth. I don't care what, what your gender is or whatever, These issues are important because we're talking about people's lives. Isn't that worth anything? Right? Isn't that worth anything? A human life. You may say, someone else, so who cares? Not me. But yeah, that's kind of harsh, isn't it? What if it is you? Right? We're talking about the value of human life. You, whoever is listening, are important. Right? You need to choose your path wisely. There are many directions to go, but we have the moral path, you know, the objective view of what's happening. I want to know the truth. I want to know what my government knows about UFOs, for example, right? We still don't know about that. Over here, it's like, oh, you're a nut job when you talk about UFOs. But in Mexico, the government had said, yeah, UFOs exist. Yeah, we know. So why does one government say, yeah, they exist, and another government says, you're a conspiracy kook when you talk about that? You know, what are they hiding? What are they hiding? Am I not allowed to know? Right? Am I not part of the club, which George Carlin was talking about? Right? One big club. You know, you're not in it. Yeah, Bohemian Grove and all these weird celebratory events, right? The Bilderberg Group. I don't care whoever's in the Bilderberg Group. I don't want one group making an agenda that, you know, other governments have to follow, right? It's for the people to decide, you know, and the people must pay attention on what's happening. We also need to learn the history, right? You know, there are many people watching, as I can see at the YouTube statistics, that are still quite young. Now, I don't see myself as old, but I'm in my 40s, so that is pretty old. And, you know, I do have experience in certain issues, so let's see what Mr. Green Thumb has to say. Check out Ilich, Ramírez, Sanchez, Carlos Jackal. I'll check it out. Yeah, it's interesting to exchange information. You know, Mr. Green Thumb is from Ottawa, Canada. So, yeah, we have Canada watching. That's cool, isn't it? You know, Australia is watching too, and other countries are following RHTVLive. We used to do this daily, but you know, life intervenes, and it's hard doing it daily. You know, so I want to know the truth, whether it's 9/11, whether it's Trump assassination attempt, whether it's JFK, whether it's Osama bin Laden, right, hiding out near a military compound in Pakistan. You know, it's very, very odd. And, you know, I just want to know the truth. I want to know the truth. Damn it, I'm allowed to know the truth, right? Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know the lies that they spread, right? You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. I kind of feel like that blind priest during They Live, right? You guys seen that movie, right? It's a quite old movie, but still a movie from the 80s. They Live, Blind Preacher.
Their mouths are full of bitterness and curses, and in their paths, nothing but ruin and misery, and the fear of God is not before their eyes. They have taken the hearts and minds of our leaders. They have recruited the rich and the powerful, and they have blinded us to the truth. And our human spirit is corrupted. Why do we worship greed? Because outside the limit of our sight, feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners. Our owners. They have us. They control us. They are our masters. Wake up. They're all about you, all around you.
Now, Rowdy Piper, wrestler, said that They Live is reality. You know, reality in a movie, basically. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe there are like lizard people running the world. Who knows? Who is in power here? You know, the term democracy is demos, right, which is the public, the people, and krateos, which is the way to govern. So the people govern, right? That is democracy at its basic core, right? Now, it's not about the majority of the people. You know, it's about the ideology that the people have, right? And they're breaking out the ideology. You know, they're attacking every aspect of the nuclear family, which is father, mother, kids, dog, and, you know, a house. They're attacking every aspect of life, spraying over our heads and stuff like that. And people are concerned of a virus. Really? Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know why they have these events in the woods, such as Bohemian Grove? You know, don't you want to know? I want to know. And, well, maybe I do know. It's all about control. The COVID measures was never about public health. It was about public control, right? How do we control the public? You know, if we look at Zbigniew Brzezinski, which we often play, he kind of said it's easier to kill 1 million people than to control them, right? So let's take a look at that. Zbigniew Brzezinski, easier to kill. Oh. There. It is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control them. Well, how do you control them? You put out a virus. Put out a virus. Oh, people aren't concerned about them spraying, but they are concerned about a virus. Keep your distance, put your mask on, you know. So they'd rather control us than kill us, right? And think about it. If it is like, they want to kill us, they'll also kill themselves. So it's about control, right? How do you keep the population under control whilst they're politically awake, according to Zbigniew?
That for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control.
Yeah, but if you want to kill us, you'll also kill yourselves, right? It kind of reminds me of, you guys all know that I'm a DC comic fan, right? So it kind of reminds me when Joker confronts Two-Face. Two-Face. There, let's see, here. Let's see if we can find a short variant. Oh well, who cares? Y'all like the Dark Knight, right?
Hi. You know, I don't want there to be any hard feelings between us, Harvey. When you and, Rachel were being abducted, I was sitting in Gordon's cage. Now, I didn't rig those charges.
Your man, your plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things. The mob has plans. The cops have plans. Gordon's got plans. You know, they're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. So, when I say, come here, when I say that you and your girlfriend was nothing personal, you know that I'm telling the truth.
We love you, Christopher Nolan. Heath Ledger will never forget you. Excellent actor, you know. So, yeah. Kind of reminds me of that, right? The Joker and Two-Face, you know. So we got a message here where we have a message see this. It's about Carlos the Jackal. Very interesting history, Colombian affairs and stuff. So let's take a look at this here. Carlos the Jackal. I believe it's about Colombia, right? Colombian drug trade and stuff.
How long have you been with us? You are still a boy. I need men.
So you don't trust me because I'm young?
You have to prove yourself.
Like you, I strongly believe that the Palestinian struggle should take at an international level. And I will be honored to contribute some of my modest skills.
Choose a code name.
I already have.
Terror, blackmail, the taking of civilian hostages.
Every Western intelligence service has its eyes on you.
You're used to making women drunk, aren't you?
You need me. My name is Fear.
Who do you think you are?
Are you a moral judge now?
I decide whether you must be eliminated or not.
For me, there's no going back.
I am honored to meet the famous Carlos. You have become a star.
I would have preferred a spectacular operation.
The next OPEC meeting, we will take the ministers hostage.
You're brave. Anyone who resists will be executed. Anyone who doesn't obey our orders will be executed. Anyone who panics will be executed.
You fear for your life! I'm a soldier! I'm not a martyr!
The Cold War is over.
You are a historical curiosity.
You betrayed us, and you will pay the price.
Wherever you go, they will find you.
Living under cover, the fear, the loneliness.
How do you expect it to end? My name is Carlos. You may have heard of me.
So that seems pretty interesting to watch, right? Let's see. The Jackal is about Israel financing the Palestinians and shape the new face of war, profiting. It's all tie up to 9/11. Yeah, interesting. As far as we know, Israel created Hamas, right? And basically it was a diversion from the Palestinian Liberalization Organization, the PLO, right? Yasser Arafat and stuff like that. Ron Paul even said it in Congress. We often play that. So we know both sides of the war are funded. And we know the globalists are the one profiting from it, right? Last broadcast, we showed you the new owners of Ukraine, where you see Zelensky shaking hands and being big buddies with BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase and other investment banks and stuff. So you don't believe me, right? You probably missed last episode, but we're going to show you that what I said, Zelensky is like shaking hands with JP Morgan Chase and other investment banks and BlackRock, and you know, we know what's going on. We know what's going on. So we're going to show you guys that. Here we go. Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan Chase. Now, JP Morgan, we know about him. He was basically an investor and buyer and seller of companies and stuff like that. And he had the White Star Line as one of the companies, as his holdings. And we know what happened with Titanic, right? And JP Morgan was supposed to be on Titanic, and he missed that event. He was so-called sick, even though he was with his mistress at the beach of Normandy, I believe. So anyway, that's another story. But here we have Zelensky talking to the new investors, the new owners of Ukraine.
We're so happy.
Morgan Chase. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
How are you? Fine, thank you. Great to see you.
Great, Elio, as you know. We're so happy.
Morgan Chase. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
How are you? Fine, thank you. Great to see you.
Yep, being big buddies, right? It's like, yay, yay. Here you have your new owners, the real owners of Ukraine, the investors, investing in warfare and, costing many, many lives. We saw that woman in Kiev who set herself on fire because her husband needed to go to the front lines, and they had a case, so he could avoid going to the front lines, but government said, nope, you're going to go to the front lines. We don't care. We don't care that you're whatever, mentally handicapped or physically handicapped. We don't care. We need more people to fight off Russia. So this is what's happening in Ukraine and neighboring countries such as Hungary. Hungary is on a peace path, right? We have Orban going to Beijing, going to Kiev, and Moscow, and trying for a peace settlement. But the EU said, you are a bad person, Orban, and, we're going to sanction you, put new sanctions on you. And, Hungary says, okay, we don't care. We have cheap gas. The Russians are still supplying us. And that you guys, the rest of Europe, needs to pay high gas prices and stuff. Okay, we don't care. We don't care. And that's the situation in Europe in a nutshell. I believe Hungary will be the next country to leave the EU, right? And will be the first neutral state within Europe. These are my predictions, right? So, and to give some perspective, we're going to put it on the map, of course. So, here we have Hungary right next to Ukraine, which used to be part of the USSR, right? They fought for their own independence in the 50s, and Russia basically intervened, and they got their independence in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and now they are an independent country, and they want peace. Now, I also want peace, right? But it's not up to me, it's up to us. We need to come to a consensus on what's happening. But first, we need to break the frame of consensus, such as the BBC gives. You know, WTC7 hasn't fallen. Right. I mean, come on. Everyone can see that the building is still standing. You know, so yeah, it's all interconnected, and it's their game. Now we're finding out how the game is being played here, right? And we know a lot. We know, because we have a memory, and we will not forget. We want peace. That's what we want. And freedom. The freedom of speech is very, very important. And I hope that I'm not censored, even though I was censored during the pandemic, you know. But we're still here. We're still here, fighting for freedom, and for all the people to be free, right? Free from government rule. Kim Jong-un is not a god, right? So all the North Koreans watching, you are being fooled by a family that has political power since the revolution. We know. Don't be fooled by your government. Don't be fooled by the left side or the right side. Be objective and search for the truth. So I thank you all for watching. We're going to close off with a song, right? As we always do. This time we're going to close off with Ollie the Octopus. We haven't played that in a while, so first we need to look it up, right? That's how we roll. So here we have Ollie the Octopus. They're going to get you.
Okay. Rolling?
Hello, this is Ollie the Octopus.
Hi, here we are outside the US Embassy. I'm about to play my song. It's called They're Going to Get You. We're filming them because they film us. If you don't renew your tax disc, you'll be driving at your own risk. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. They can use their Jedi mind tricks, psychometric biometrics. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. CCTV in your clamshell, turning in the grave of Orwell. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. DNA no longer your own because they've mapped out your genome. Be careful what you say when you're on they're going to get you. They're going to get you. Don't start a revolution, they'll get you with their air pollution. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. Because we think we are paranoid, their forces are still deployed. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. They get your details in the dope. You now they know you. They're going to get you. Careful what you say when you're on the phone, because they know where you live. And when you're on your own, 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 on your own. I'm gonna go over here for the last verse.
Nice one.
Good afternoon.
By the way, because I know we're from the police entertainment unit, here to make your day a little bit more exciting and good entertaining. Have you not heard of us?
They'll look you up for them, it's not hard, so look your best on your ID card. They're going to get you, they're going to get you. They can make your life live in hell if you even mention Roswell. They're going to get you, they're going to get you. You can join in if you want. They're going to get you,
They're going to get you.
they're going to get you, they're going to get you, they're going to get you,
They're going to get you.
Be careful what you say when you're on the phone, because they know where you live. And when you're on your own, be careful what you say. Be careful when you're on the phone, because they know where you live. They know, and when you're on your own, be careful what you say when you're on the phone, because they know where you live. When you're on your own, 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 on your own.
You are allowed to clap.
Ollie the Octopus, thank you very much for that.
Sorry, just to explain, if I may, police, you probably don't know about the police entertainment department, but it's a group of us, and what we do various things to kind of cheer up the police and get them a bit more connected to us, the ununiformed. One of the, I'm actually the head of the police hugging department. Yeah, all right. And
No hugs?
you're not up for a hug?
Hugging makes the world
Sir?
a better place. Can we
Sir,
hug
you up
you?
for a hug, sir?
Can we please hug you?
No?
But it's only a nice hug.
It's just a hug.
We're all
Go on.
We're all
Are
beautiful
you
and
allowed
unique
to?
snowflakes of Mother Nature and all the rest of it. No?
That indeed we are. You know, you just need to realize it. Right? Open your third eye. Know that they are lying to you. And know that you're supposed to be free, not under control by a government, right? Not under financial, the financial burden of life. We are the only species on the planet that tax ourselves because you live somewhere. Right? Isn't that odd? Right? Don't birds have to pay tax, like flight tax or something along those lines? I mean, we have to pay. I don't want to pay for living, right? I live, I exist, I know I'm here, I know my history. And as Mr. Green Thumb said, I study history, so they can't lie to me. And I hope more people would study history. You know, we started off with Jim Garrison. He made history because he did not believe his government. And people can make history, you know. So I thank you all for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll put out a poll later. So have a nice day, and we'll see each other